Maruna, ready to go? Uh-oh.
You jumped out?
Yeah. Where are you going? Where are you going? Huh? Where are you going? No. We are on our way to go and visit my in-laws in Himachal Pradesh. It's a 500-kilometer and a 10-hour drive. Alright, have another one.
On Indian roads, you need a sugar rush to keep you calm.
Oh yeah, be careful. So tell me, what is the purpose of us going to Meal this week?
Fingers crossed, we would like to make Meol our next permanent destination for many years at least, or final destination for us, for life. Fingers crossed.
You mean you are ready to settle down?
That's a hard thing to say. I don't know.
Do you think so?
That's a very hard thing to say. I don't know yet.
The life will decide for us, no? We will find out.
It's another destination, so let's experience it. Who knows, maybe it's the final destination.
Well, it will be a bad one.
Or we can keep it a just like base, and from there you can approach and operate in different areas.
It could be the Manjiv Natural Hospital headquarters.
Headquarters. Yeah.
We're really excited because we're seeing some signs that Marula is getting sensation back in his legs. This is amazing news. I'm currently sitting in the middle of the forest in a place, in a little village in the valley of the Himalayas, or the Doladar range to be precise. And it feels amazing. I'm just looking at Marula. Marula! Marula was born on the road, so this is his first forest experience. And this is one of my favorite places here in India. It's so calm, it's so beautiful, and they aren't people. Although I say that, I was sitting here and I gave a heart attack to a poor boy who was bringing his cow home. I'm not sure. I think I think I really surprised him. I was lying down with my eyes closed and Marula barked. And I think that guy was like, whoa, where did she come from? But yeah, no, it's amazing. I'm so happy to be here. So the main reason why we're here is to try and see whether it makes sense for us to move here. We bought some of Manjeev's ancestral land a few months ago, and we're thinking that maybe it could be a good idea. We always knew it would be a good idea, but we didn't know when. And we're wondering whether now could be a good idea. So this is what's going to be happening over the next few days. Trying to look at the land, see whether it's possible to bring the horses, if we're bringing the horses and how. I'm going to be working from here. Manjeev's dad's house is not fully built. It doesn't have windows. So I need to test the electricity and I need to test the Wi-Fi to make sure I can work. And I have a few calls, so I think that's going to be quite interesting. But let's see. I've worked in all sorts of funky conditions before, and it's pretty much always happened. So, hotspots, some electricity to charge up my computer once in a while, and I'll be good to go. I mean, not too bad for an office, right? And then this happened. So the tire's flat. We need to change. Well, Manjeev needs to change it. But at least the temperature is really nice. And this behind me is his dad's house, which is not yet finished, with his 3 dogs, including some 2 pit bull mixes. And we've been camping there overnight, and there was a big storm in the night. So yeah, that was quite exciting.
Can you get me this?
So tell me, are you enjoying your morning?
I don't mind changing tires. I only mind changing this kind of a tire where you need to unhook the tire like this. The back. Like Thar, Ford Figo, Safari used to have it.
But you can do it now.
Yeah?
You can do it now, can't you put it up
Yeah,
there?
I can put it up there. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, so do it.
Next modification, when I buy you a new car, so you don't complain about my car. But they have done this. This is not nice. Then I think.
Marula. Marula. Hello. So here's 2 signs that I've been living in India long enough. The first one is I can stay in this position for a pretty long time. And the second one is I can watch without helping for a pretty long time too. We are camping. We got the cooler that we brought from Gurgaon. And this in red is my desk for tomorrow and the whole of next week. So this is going to be fun. This guy doesn't mind. So we are trying to convince Manjeev's dad to grow avocado, but for that he needs to like it. So do you think he's going to like it?
I have 50-50 chances.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We prepared a guacamole and hopefully that will pass the test. Do you remember when I was saying that I've been working on my posture as a business owner over the last few weeks, and with the strategy consultant I hired, that was part of what we were looking at, is to sort of get my mindset to shift as a business owner, and but in a way, you know, that stays aligned with my values and all of that. Anyway, I've been doing a lot of that in the past few weeks, and that included, you know, upgrading my office and doing a lot of really cool things to make me feel fancy and stuff like that. But this week we came to the mountains, to the Himalayan mountains where Manji's parents live. And so his dad's building himself a new house in his ancestral village, and you can hear his rooster now. And the thing is, the house isn't finished, but the house is in such a beautiful village, whereas their usual house is kind of in the city. Like, it's not a city, but it's a very big, it's like a small city or a very big village. And whereas the new house is in a village, and I'm much more excited about spending a week in a village than I am in a small city. But I have a lot of work things this week, and so I had this internal debate where I was thinking, how am I going to do all my conference calls, my video calls from a house in construction? And I think, because we arrived on Friday, and I don't work on Fridays, so I had 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to think about whether I was going to go to the other house to sort of have a more structured setup, or I would stay here. And I decided that, the best way to make that decision and to be aligned with my values is that I love an adventure, and I want my work to fit around my life and not other way around. So if I want to stay here, then I'm going to make it work with my work. Today's Wednesday, so it's my third day working here. but I want to show you the house so that you get a bit of an idea about the thing. So this is the house, and this is Marula at the entrance. So I'll just show you around because so you can see that it's just absolutely stunning all around. But the house, yeah. So the walls are not painted, but that's fine. But there's no windows. There's no windows on any of the windows. And these are the dogs because of course he's got 3 dogs. That's very cool. This is my dog, you know, Marilla. Anyway, so there's a fake door, which is like kind of just plywood, and this is the house. So and again, none of the windows have glass, and there are 2 chairs here for 3 people, but there's a TV, and this is the kitchen, and this is where we clean the dishes. So yesterday there was a snake in the dish thing, of course, and yeah, so what happened? So then I want to show you my office. Oh yeah, none of the rooms have doors. The bathroom, this is the bathroom. It doesn't have a door either. And this is the room in which we're staying. And this is the office. So I've got the second chair, and this is basically plywood on a pile of bricks, and yeah. So this is my desk. This is where I'm working, and yeah. So none of the windows again have proper curtains or glass, and this is the same here, and whatever. It's just a pile of stuff. So yeah. So this is how I'm working, and this is how I'm taking my video calls. But the wall's actually really nice because we don't have windows, but he made a really fancy ceiling. I don't know anything about building a house, but apparently you have to make the ceiling first. So anyway, the ceiling's really cool. So on the video calls, it's that wall which kind of works. And if I put my phone in the very specific, if I need to put my phone here, which is why I got a cloth. I put my phone here, and then I get enough signal on the hotspot, and then I can do my work. And what we do have is let me show you an incubator for the eggs. It's very important. Yes, baby. Yes. Yes. And yeah, so that's about it. So this is where I've been working, and I will be working tomorrow, and then Friday I'm off. So we're now looking at how we could move here to the hills, and it's very complicated for a lot of reasons, one of which is it seems that the demarcation between farmers and who owns what is very controversial, and so they all seem to know what they own, but then none of them agree, and nothing is separated properly. So there's a lot of scheming and planning going on about how to find out what belongs to who, and one of the things in India is that people will tend to straight away go to court instead of kind of solve problems with each other. Maybe that's not an Indian thing, maybe that's a global thing, I don't know. And so there's a lot of things that kind of get stuck for generations because of that. So the key is to try and find out how this could be avoided and how we can create our little paradise without upsetting other people and whilst feeling happy with the setup. The place is so beautiful and it's just really, really soothing to be here. I haven't walked this much probably since the lockdown, and it feels really good. And you can see it's it's just green everywhere. It's absolutely amazing. I want to explain a little bit why this land thing is so complicated, because there's a reason. It doesn't make necessarily a lot of sense for people who, like me, come from outside. And basically, the problem starts with inheritance and having lots of kids. So when a farmer passes on the land to his children, his sons, most of the time, it's split equally between the kids. But most of the time it's one big agricultural patch. So nobody really bothers to register officially how the split is, and a lot of the time fathers don't have a proper will, so there is no way of, there's no arbitrary, basically the sons will often not agree exactly on how to split the land. And so because they don't agree, they can't actually demarcate it and register it properly. And so they kind of have a sort of semi-arrangement where they'll usually just continue plowing whatever bit has been roughly allocated to them. And this can go on for years and generations even, and then when they pass on their bit to their sons, the same thing happens again. And what it means is that when it comes to it, legally speaking, like if what's happening now is that kids want to build a house on this agricultural land, which is, for example, what we want to do. And when that happens, then nobody can agree on where exactly that piece of land is. And also, it's completely common for people to change their mind about an allocation that was done 10, 15 years ago. So if I'm a guy and my brothers and I got the land that was handed over from when my father passed away, and we sort of agreed roughly on how it was allocated, but then say it turns out that one area, or my area for example, runs out of water, or somebody else's area is closer to a road, then his area is going to be much more valuable than mine, even that if that happens 10 years after the distribution. And so I can then say, hey, well, that's not fair, it was not a fair distribution, we need to review that. And because that distribution was never initially registered anywhere, it's legally impossible to prove that I'm not entitled to switch. And so that's why it's extremely complicated. And so here, for example, we're literally in the middle of the hills, but here clearly you can see that there is a patch that's been flattened, so it belongs to someone, or at least somebody thinks it belongs to them. And it's probably already been more or less split between, you can see 3 or 4 parts between brothers, and they probably come here and graze the animals, and maybe sometimes they grow something. But if one of them or one of their sons once comes and say, okay, well, this is actually a really cool place to build a house, because it is, by the way, it is a really cool place to build a house, then suddenly he'll find that what he thought was his land, or what he thought was his father's land, was actually never registered, and so he can't really prove. And there is obviously a legal system to try and fix that problem, but try and imagine how you would sort this out. You can't really sort it out unless everybody agrees, right? Because even if there's a law, at the end of the day, that's the mess, and that's really what the issue is. And what I'm seeing, but I think that's not a specific problem. I think that's a everybody in the world problem. When it comes to inheritance, it's a very personal and it's a very strong sense of entitlement. And so, like, as far as I look at it, I'm like, well, I think we should just be grateful to inherit something. Like, it's not like something you worked for, whatever. But that's not how a lot of people, most people see it. And so they're extremely worried about having less, and they would rather nobody have anything than the possibility that they have less. And so that's the kind of mindset that we're dealing with. And so even if you're flexible, which for example Manjeev is very flexible, what he's encountering with his relatives is fear. They're just very, very anxious, and they're very afraid that, hey, like, maybe we are going to get less out of this deal. So they'd rather nobody kind of agree, which is what's been happening for, I think, 25 years since the grandfather passed away. Nobody's really agreed on anything. So some people have built stuff, but then now other of the siblings disagree with what's been built, and so it's a very anxiety driven environment. And so it is, I don't know how it is in other countries, it's the first time I come across this, but obviously we're in a country which is so populated, and these people, they're not poor because they have land, and a lot of that land is very valuable, but they're definitely cash poor. And it's raining. You can tell my glasses. They're definitely cash poor, and they're not educated. I don't think any of them has finished middle school or something, and so there is that fear. And so that's the challenge, and is to try and say, well, can't we find a system that suits all of us? And in theory, that's obviously the way to go, but in practice, if you're dealing with people who are very afraid of missing out, then it's a much more difficult thing to implement. And so that's why it's so complicated. It's because we're dealing with generations of unmarked land, and also back in the days, maybe 1 acre wasn't that much. It's kind of like, yeah, here or there, so leave it in the bush. But today, 1 acre is a huge deal. So suddenly, pieces that were sort of in the bush were like, I mean, imagine this place, and somebody tells you, well, you own an acre here. It's like, well, all right, and they have maps, right? Old maps, but still, it's like, oh, I think I'm from this tree, going to that tree. And then the other brother will be like, no. And also, why should you get that tree? That's a valuable tree. I want it, right? So that's the kind of conversations that go on. And then the more generations are involved, the more people are involved. And then it gets really complicated. So this is why land is very complicated. And what's incredible, and this is where it gets funny, not so funny. What's incredible is that this land gets sold all the time. So people are buying and selling land which actually is not marked properly. So the paperwork is usually still in the name of the dead grandfather or whoever else was. Because of these registration problems, they're not really able to switch to the next thing. And then they kind of sell the land to someone. And it's common. Like, people know that if you want to buy land, you're not going to be buying land in the name of the person you buy it from. And you know that you can't register it in your name because that's obviously not possible, because the person selling to you is not there. So this is a really, really common thing, and people do it all the time. And which is mad, because of course then something happens and you can't actually prove that it's yours. Although, again, the government has in place a system to more or less recognize this, but it takes years, and So yeah, here's a 101 lesson in why it's so complicated, this land system.